What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some of the top 5 best NFL route runners from the 2020 season. So we're going to be taking a look at some of the best guys who run the best routes, run the crispiest routes, and just why they run such good routes, and what are some of the things you could take away from their game to make you a better route runner in the first place. And guys, we're having a New Year's Eve 50% off sale on my website. This is the last sale we're going to have for a while. 50% off sale. Very first link in the description below, guys. Use the promo code DOWN50 at checkout to get 50% off your entire order. It's not just one product, it's your entire order, 50% off. So again, check out that very first link in the description. Sale ends tonight. Last sale we're going to have for a while, guys. So hope to get you guys on that soon. Let's get started with this video. So we're going to be looking at number 5 here, and this is in my order. This is my top 5. But so number 5 in my eyes from this season, right? Obviously there are a lot of other key factors, but from this season I got Thielen ranked at number 5. And so we're going to be looking at this slant out route from him, okay? So this is a route that was going around everywhere when he did it, and we're going to be talking about how he's able to create some separation with this and how he's able to get open. So let's watch it full speed. So he takes that one step, bursts to the inside, snaps this thing off, swats the DB's hands, and then gets into this touchdown gets into the end zone for a touchdown. So this first step right here sets up a lot of this, because this first step is so explosive off the line, and you could even sell vertical with just one step, right? Because you want to be explosive, you want to get your pad level to the outside. You see how we get this DB to move? It all starts with that first step off the line. We're stepping outside of his frame. I'm committing my shoulders, committing my eyes. That's what gets him sitting. And now when I break to the slant, what's the first thing that he does? He snaps his eyes around, right? But it's not just enough to commit your eyes on a slant out or any double move for that matter. You got to commit your eyes, you got to commit your shoulders, and you got to commit your hips. But also what will get this DB to overcommit on this thing is if I stay in stride, right? I keep my speed. That's the entire goal, right? So I take that one step, I burst to the slant, I snap my eyes around. You want to commit your shoulders, you want to commit your hips, and you want to stay in stride. Thielen does a really good job of changing direction suddenly, and the only way you're able to run full speed and change direction like how he does is by being violent with your hips and being powerful with your steps, because that's what decelerates you, right? And so if I'm running full speed and I get up into a break point and I start to chatter my feet and I start to break down and I start to beat the drum with my hands, the problem with that is I'm going to drift because I'm going to be nice and tall. I'm not creating any explosion, right? All great route runners, you're going to hear me talk about this a lot today. They're all very sudden with their breaks, and they're all very powerful with their breaks, right? So they can create explosion, which turns into acceleration. So you see how he drops his hips right here, and his steps are powerful. It's just pop, pop. Hips are violent, steps are powerful, and now what those steps do, and him dropping his hips and getting to an explosive pad level position, one, because he's a salesman on this route that got that DB to commit so we could get his hips out of the frame, we could get him off his platform, and I could swat him by, but also his hip drop right here created explosion. And when you create explosion like that, that explosion turns into acceleration, much like a 40-yard dash, right? So you see how he bursts out of there? He pumps those arms out of the break. He snaps his eyes back to that ball. It's a great route here by Thielen. Great job working this slant out route, okay? So again, that's my number 5 receiver on this top 5 NFL route runners. So again, he comes off here. It's very sudden with his hips, powerful with his steps, create that energy so we can accelerate out. So number 4, I have Ridley. I think that he's very, very underrated, and his route running is some of the cleanest, I think, in the league. It could have really gone either way with Ridley, and then my number 3 is Jefferson, and it could have really gone either way. I think I definitely think Judy belongs in this conversation too, but obviously because of like output this year, I didn't really include him on that list, right? Because these guys all were had a very high output this year when it comes to just overall playing receiver position, right? But route running is what separates you. That's why these guys are on this list. That's why they're so good. That's why they're some of the best in the league, because everybody in the league's fast, right? This DB right here, he's a fast guy. He's one of the most explosive guys probably on his team, right? DBs, you got to be fast because it's such a hard position to play, and so you can't just beat guys with speed. Tyreek Hill's an exception. Obviously, everybody loves to throw that back in my face when I say this, but Tyreek Hill's calculated with a lot of the stuff that he does, right? Everybody at that next level is fast. Just like when you're a high school guy, everybody at that college level is fast as well, okay? So now we're going to be looking at this diamond release here from Calvin Ridley. Now it's going to be built off of this speed release. So again, we were talking about that with Thielen. The first step is important. So you see how he takes that first step right there, that single jab, right? Because how many times have you seen guys, especially fast guys, right, use that first step, they're just lined up, and they use that first step, and then they just push vertical. They just get outside right now, and they beat this DB to the outside. They beat him on a fade. Or maybe you're not even getting the ball. Maybe you're backside of the play. Maybe it's a run play, but you want to make this DB feel your speed. You're always working. Even when you're not getting the ball, you're always working. It builds up on other things. It sets up other routes. So that's a great job selling with that first step. Now he's going to take 3 steps on a 45-degree angle, which is the whole goal of this is to get the DB to turn his hips, right? So he takes off that first step, 1, 2, 3. And you see how when he runs those 3 steps, Much like Thielen did, what's he able to do? He commits his shoulders, he commits his hips, he's not rounding this thing off. He's able to commit fully to the fade, right? The whole goal is to make this DB believe fade and then be able to change direction suddenly with no indicators where the DB can't react to it, right? So I come off the line here, I give that little sudden jab, bam, 1, 2, 3. And you see how sudden his feet are. That's how we change direction running full speed, right? And we get that DB to turn his hips and then I'm out right here. Now, what should this DB have done right here? A lot of people say that he should have sped turn out of there, right? So if he speed turns out of there and he flips those hips, maybe he'll be a little bit faster. He decides to open up, which is in my eyes a little bit slower. But again, we're here. So as a receiver, what do we have to do? We got to accelerate and we got to widen the distance from this DB. Have to widen the distance. I pop this thing up on my third step. I drive off that leg. I got to widen the distance. I got to pump my arms and I got to accelerate off of this thing so the DB can't react, right? That's the whole entire goal. The DB can't react and catch up because if we do everything right, the DB's not going to have, the DB's not going to win. It's just a fact, right? The DB's going off of us, and if we do everything correctly, we should win every single time if there's a good ball. So we got to make sure that I get him to turn his hips in this case, I get him to commit to the fade, and then I accelerate back underneath him, right? And that's a great job that Ridley does there. His change of direction is unbelievable. That's why I wanted to include this clip right here, because it's not easy for, if you're a beginner receiver, to take full 3 steps and be able to cut on a dime like that. What a lot of guys will do is they'll slow down, right? They'll go here, and then on this second step, what they do is they brace themselves, they start to slow down, then they cut with the third one. It's not explosive. And the second this DB starts to feel you slow down on your inside leg, he's going to slow his hips down. He's going to drop his hips and then be able to open up and make a play. So it's important that I keep the same speed on this 45-degree angle. I go 1, 2, 3 right in stride to get this DB to turn his hips. Let's watch it again full speed one more time. Great job by Ridley here. So again, bursting up, bam. Cut this thing off on that third step. Let's accelerate. Let's make sure we run. Use the explosion off of that cut. So number 3 on this list, I got Justin Jefferson on here. I know he's rookie, but I think a lot of the stuff that he does, it's very reminds me a lot of some of the most elite route runners of the game. And this isn't even a clip necessarily of him off the line, because off the line, he's a very dangerous guy as well. So let's watch this thing full speed. So he's going to be running a comeback route. And so this is what I want to talk about, eliminating steps at the top and attacking and manipulating zone coverage. Because when you're a dangerous route runner, you're probably going to get a lot of zone. You're not going to be getting a whole lot of man, right? So you got to be able to attack both. So he comes off the line here. You see how he gives him this like vertical set rocker move, snaps this thing off on a comeback, runs back to this ball, and makes this play on the sideline, toe tap catch. That's a great job here by Jefferson. Let's talk about what makes this route great and why this is important when we got a zone coverage DB, okay? So zone coverage, right? Eyes to the quarterback. Zone, we know that we want to try to attack what? This blind spot, and we want to make this DB think fade. Much like every other route, right? We want to make this DB think fade. There's really not a single route where you don't want to necessarily have a DB think that you're going vertical, right? So you see how he comes up here. He's running full speed, attacking that front hip. Now, what does he do? He's going to give him this like vertical set right here. So this 1, 2. All this is selling is that he's giving him this single jab to the inside and bursting up on the fade, right? Because how many times, anytime you're running a fade against zone coverage, we talk about this a lot, you want to give that jab to the inside and give like that post fake. They call it a vertical set, because that makes the DB sit on post, and then I'm able to slip this thing right behind him. Maybe if there's a 1 high safety look, it's like a cover 3 situation, and you got to slip behind him and get over the top, and that quarterback can put it with some air and let you go get it, right? So that's what we want to sell right here, and most importantly, we want to get to this blind spot. So I take that single jab to the inside, or that like kind of rocker step, vertical set to the inside. I burst up, and then I snap it off. Now, when you guys are running a comeback, all elite guys are able to change direction like this. All elite route runners are able to just snap down violently, right? So you see how he's here, he's able to be in stride, snap those hits, because on a 45-degree angle break like this, you want to be able to get yourself into an explosive position, because that's what decelerates you, but also when you're going to a 45 break, the ball's going to be down here, and it's a race to get back to that spot. It's a race to get to that spot where the QB is going to throw you, which is low and away. So I got to make sure I get my hips into an explosive position to create that energy to shoot me back down to that angle, right? So now, how am I able to get out of there, though? When I snap my hips down like this, I want to pivot on my second step. So it's a snap, then a pivot, because that pivot is what allows your hips to come through. And that third step's got to hook around, because that allows you to drive out. Now, Jefferson kind of leans back right here, which I necessarily am not the hugest fan of. I would like his chin to go to his knee, and he runs out of it a little bit more. But you see how he's able to just go snap, pivot, hook. Just the reason why I like him to run out of it is because that fourth step isn't really doing much. It's kind of like almost a false step. It's not really going down that 45. You see guys like Jerry Jeudy when they run their 45. 45-degree breaks, they'll get that step going down that 45. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, right, I would rather have you take more steps at the top of the route and cut out time and sell vertical rather than worry about taking the correct steps and slowing yourselves down, chopping your feet, right? That's why Justin Jefferson is on this, because he's so good at selling vertical and cutting on a dime. That's what you guys don't understand. So many people get caught up in steps like, oh, coach, I can get out in 2 steps. It's like, no, you can't. You slow down right into the break and you chop your steps. You're not selling vertical. It's so hard to sell vertical and get out of anything in a 45 break in two steps. And a lot of people think they can do that, but they slow themselves down. So if you get caught up in steps, check your speed before you do that. Check your speed that you're actually selling vertical and dropping your hips and using some explosion to get out of the break, because that's what you need to do, right? And that's what Jefferson does. And you see how he's pumping those arms, use that explosion he created with that snap to widen the distance with the DB and win the race. That's the main key. All great route runners are good at 3 phases of the route, right? All 5 of these guys that are on this list. They can sell vertical, they can drop on a dime and create energy at the top, and then they can accelerate out of the break. If you knock those 3 phases down and you're clean with those 3 phases in any situation, man or zone coverage, you're going to be a good route runner, right? That's what you got to focus on. Those are all the aspects that you got to focus on. So watch this thing again, full speed one more time. So again, he hits him with this rocker step, gets to that blind spot, snaps it off, and let's make sure we run out of that break. So number 2 on this list, I wanted to include Diggs. I think he is just so elite with what he does, and this is just one clip that we can include. There's probably 50 clips from this season that we could include in this, so really like how he runs routes, but this is going to be built off of a wide step and then a double move, kind of like this slant out that we saw Thielen run, right? So you see how he takes that explosive wide step release, breaks to the slant, then he snaps it off and gets to this out. That's a hell of a route right there. So we're mainly going to be focused on the release, right? So when this DB's in this situation where we got maybe a yard or 2 to work, what we can do is they call this a wide step. So you remember that release that Calvin Ridley did, right? And again, you look at all these elite guys, all their releases and all the stuff that they do off the line, it all looks very similar, right? It all looks similar to what they're doing with their first step, and it all builds, right? You come into a game, you shouldn't be walking into a game with just like, oh, I got 50 releases, I'm just going to pick one when I get to the line. No, you should have about 5-6 releases that all build off of each other so you can work your plan and you know ahead of time what this DB is going to be doing because of your film study. It's all based on preparation, right? So now, this wide step release is built off of this first step. So you see how he takes this first step right here. That's a powerful first step. A lot of people consider that, oh, it's a false step. Not a false step. It's an intentional step. He's doing that. He's doing that on purpose. So that false step, that quote-unquote false step, he creates energy with that step and he pushes with it to step outside the frame of the DB. Because you want to think of a DB. If I'm a DB and you just take this wide step with your back leg and you step inside my frame, why am I going to move? You're not threatening me anywhere. We want to threaten him vertical with that first step. I want to sell speed release, right? I want to sell like I'm just going one step going to the outside. And you see how when he steps outside of his frame, he commits his shoulders, he commits his hips, and he takes his head to the outside. That's what moves this DB off that platform. Now, when I can move him off that platform and take the inside release, that forces an overcommitment from him, right? When I break to that slant, he's thinking, oh shit, I got beat on a slant. I'm going to overcommit on this thing. I don't want to get crossed. And man coverage, especially even if the guy's inside shade or head up, he doesn't want to chase you 53.5 yards across the field. So let's threaten him there. When I break off that slant, I want to be full speed into the break. I want to commit my shoulders, hips, stay in the same stride. And then now how do I change direction? Right? I change direction by being violent with my hips. You see that violent hip drop, powerful steps. It creates that energy, and so he can pump those arms and widen the distance with the DB. That's all set up off the line, but again, you see the great change of direction with these great route runners. Very similar to the route that Thielen just ran, obviously off of a little bit different of a release, but that's a great job by Stephon Diggs. Let's watch this thing again, full speed one more time. So he comes off here, hits him with that wide step, breaks to the slant, snaps his hips, make sure we create that energy and pump those arms to accelerate off the break. Great route here, okay? So now we're going to be looking at this kind of double up release from Devonta Adams, okay? He's my number 1 route runner on this. He's been the best route runner in the league for a while now, and this year obviously proves it. Obviously, he's got a great quarterback to throw to him, but a lot of these guys do have great quarterbacks to throw to him, right? It's about really, can you create separation and can you keep timing with your quarterback? Because the DB's whole objective is to screw up the timing. And if you keep timing with your quarterback, you get off press quickly, you're not wasting time. That's what gets you the ball. That's what gets you a lot of reception. That's what gets you a lot of yardage, touchdowns, whatever. But also you make these great plays. So let's watch this thing off the line. And Sunday Night Football, the announcer was talking about how he never uses his hands, right? I think it's just so quick that you don't see it, because this clip is a great example of how Adams uses his hands. So let's watch it again full speed. So he goes 1-2. Swats his hands off, and then he's able to run this dig, right? So obviously we're mainly just going to be focusing off the line. This is what makes Adams dangerous, but also his breaks at the top of the route are clean too. Everybody underestimates that. He gets out of breaks very, very fast. He drops very, very sudden. This is obviously just one example. So he hits him with this quick little 1-2. So, right, he goes 1-2. And again, very similar to what we were talking about. He's with Diggs' release, but this is more of like a double up. You see how he's pushing. You could tell he's pushing off that inside part, the balls of his feet, to throw himself out wide on this double up, right? So he's going left, right, and he's throwing his right leg, and he's throwing his hip out, like he's crossing over in basketball, and he keeps his toes forward. Why does he keep his toes forward? So the weight could stay on the inside part of his foot, so he could have a 45-degree shin angle, and he could push off of that leg and create some energy off the line. It's all about creating energy off of your cuts, fellas, and that's exactly what he's doing here. Keeps his toes forward, weight on the inside arch. He's going to be creating some explosion from here, and because where did he step? Outside the DB's frame. And again, much like the Diggs clip right there, if you could step outside of his frame and you get your head and your shoulders involved, because that's where the DBs should be looking at your hips. So if you get your upper half involved and you throw your hip out like a crossover, that's what's going to get him to move off this platform. And if I could get him leaning to the outside here, right, I get him leaning to the outside and I want to take an outside release. Which hand do I have to beat? I have to beat his inside hand. And if you swat that hand, his hips will lock out, right? So I threaten him to the outside. I threaten him vertical by stepping outside of his frame, being violent with my upper half, and now he tries to throw that hand. You see what Adams does. He just shrugs underneath. If you know that you got to beat this inside arm when you want to take an inside release, then we're off a press. Don't make it so complicated. Everybody loves to make releases super complicated. If you just trust your feet, move this DB off platform, step outside of his frame, you're throwing your hip out. You're not opening up your toe, because that will make you lose explosion, and that weight can't be on the inside part of your foot. DB won't jump also, but if you could get him off his platform and you just rip underneath and you know that you got to beat this inside arm when he throws this thing out there, because that's his recovery hand, I'm going to be able to get off press. And then when you get this kind of space, it is impossible to not have timing with your quarterback. That's a great job by Adams. Watch the thing again, full speed. That's why I think he's the best route runner in the game, just because of what he's able to do off the line, how intelligent he is, how he's able to keep timing with his quarterback. Let's watch it again, full speed. So 1-2, throw him off, swat those hands by, and then come out of this break. Great route here by Adams. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. I hope this video gave you guys some value and just some insights on why these guys are such great route runners. Again, if you guys want a 50% off sale, ends tonight at midnight, New Year's Eve sale. Use the promo code DOWN50. Link in the description, very first link in the description. Your entire order is 50% off. Hope to get you guys on that soon. If you guys have any questions at all, please leave those in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'll see you guys next time.